So, a small confession before I start this video. I had not read anything by Ray Bradbury before, ever. And when I was going through my local bookstore, someone actually recommended this to me, and I know it's probably taken me a while to finally read it and review it, and I'm sorry for that. But honestly, this one was definitely a good first step for me in reading any of Ray Bradbury's stuff, because I did not know he was such a classic author. But anyways, you guys, today I will be talking about my first steps into the Ray Bradbury series of books with Martian Chronicles. So, let's get started. So to anyone who's seen a lot of my previous reviews, you'll know I'm a huge fan for science fiction. So when I was recommended Martian Chronicles, I was immediately fascinated by, one, the location of where this would be taking place, as well as the fact that A, it's also science fiction. So, an immediate grab up for me. This book actually took me about a week to finish, I'm not even kidding here. I started 5 days straight of a work week to finish this entire book, but I was captivated from start to finish. I loved every second of it, and I'm really excited to read more of Ray Bradbury's stuff after this, but to continue with the main story. So Martian Chronicles was not in fact just a single standalone novel. It was in fact a collection of stories that talks about how humanity comes to colonize Mars and the after effects of such a thing. For instance, when we first started off this book, I actually see a lot of the local Martians, like actual Martian people, living on this world and essentially not really being invaded, but their encounters with humanity were the first exploration teams. And let me say right now, the Martians were fiercely defensive of their home. There was one where a woman was having psychic dreams of an explorer coming down from a rocket, and her husband, possibly feeling jealous, I believe, goes out, and after learning that the rocket was about to land, what does he do? He picks up his gun, goes out to the landing site, and executes the first exploration team. I think out of a sense of mostly jealousy, due to the fact that his wife was just excited about it, and all that stuff, and the dreams that she described of a handsome man appearing from the rocket. So yeah, I could definitely see how that would be a bit of jealousy there. But around further in the book, we find out that the Martians themselves become wiped out due to the fact that they actually were killed by chickenpox. I'm not even kidding. Something that any kid could possibly catch utterly devastated the entire Martian race to the point of near extinction. And that alone just shocked me for a second. I was not expecting that. I was expecting maybe a massive war or something, maybe a strike team takes out the Martians. No. It was just a simple disease that the Martians caught due to the 3 exploration teams that they had met and encountered and essentially executed. Because what I like about the Martians is that they are seen otherworldly. They have darker skin, golden eyes, and they also have telepathic powers. They have the ability to change reality around themselves. The way they look like anyone that the explorers saw. It was someone that they loved or cared for, or even just around the entire area, like a full earthen town. Which that alone was terrifying to read, especially in the 3rd chronicle of a 3rd exploration team. When they come down, and they come to find out that there's this whole small town there with all the relatives that they had missed throughout their lives who had died previously, and yet were somehow now on Mars. Which then proceeds to turn into a horror flick as soon as one guy, the captain, figures it all out. He figures out what's going on, that this is in fact the Martians doing, to separate them, isolate the others from their crew, and execute them. But again, to think that the Martians fell as such a small disease planet-wide is terrifying to me. And in all honesty, anticlimactic. But throughout this whole story, we see how humanity is slowly evacuating to Mars due to the fact that the world powers are on the eclipse of full atomic warfare. So we see humanity's rise, how they all are evacuating to Mars, and from there we see how they are building up society the way it used to be. Like full modern society, but then again, what happens is that all the things that they tried to run away from on Earth followed them from Earth to Mars. So essentially, it just became more of the same. So, just a quick positive on this thing. What I like about Martian Chronicles as I was reading it was the very somber tone it has. Like, throughout this whole entire book, we see the rise of one society, but then we see the fall of two. We see the fall of the Martians, and we see the fall of humanity, to a great degree. And we see other things such as difference of opinions, rivals of creativity versus realism, censorship, all these things. Hell, there was even one short story that involved racism. And let me tell you, that definitely surprised me when I read it. And one of the main antagonists in that short story, I absolutely wanted to knock their teeth out. Like, I've never really experienced rage that much. Like, it's very rare that a book gets me that invested to the point of emotions. But this story just absolutely enraged me with one of the main characters. Like, one of the characters themselves enraged me, I should say. But all in all, this whole entire book had a very somber feel to it. And I like how it stays grounded. Like, despite the fact that we are essentially colonizing another planet, it maintains a very somber tone due to the premise of why we are colonizing in the first place. But if I were to say anything, oh my god, let me think here. There's just a lot of different stories here. There's like singers, there's people, all of them. And honestly, I could not recommend this book enough if you want something that's more grounded and yet also very amazing to behold due to the differences of opinions. Hell, to harker back to the creativity versus realism part I mentioned, there is a short story where a man essentially creates an entire haunted house on Mars. Only we come to find out that all the stuff that he's listed in there, all the horrifying things of Edgar Allan Poe or Stephen King, stuff like that, all the classics have been essentially banned, with their books all being burned. So, extreme censorship to a massive degree. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, when I heard about book burnings within this story, I actually felt a little bit enraged, because y'all know I'm a book lover, I mean, come on. But to find out that people are burning books, oh boy. I was not happy about it, and it actually gained an emotional response from me, like, are you kidding me? When I was reading that. So this man ends up getting revenge on the people who run the government, who essentially are the censorship guild, to put it simply. They're trying to tear down the whole haunted house because it goes against everything that they believe, and essentially because it's rendered as illegal. But yeah, the story really took a dark turn. But once again, the way I look at this story is grounded, incredibly well put together, and mostly just very realistic. It's like no matter what you do, like we can try to escape from everything, and yet somehow the evil will still follow us. And that is honestly something I fear. Like if humanity ever decides to start colonizing Mars or any parts of the solar system, that is something I worry about, that no matter what we try to escape from, it will always follow us and just end up making things so much harder. But I will say this, for the first time I've ever read a Ray Bradbury novel, I'm actually curious to read more of his works if they are this thought-provoking or very grounded stories. I like this. He's not afraid to acknowledge some of the rougher parts of humanity and really brings them to the limelight and essentially just tells us, hey, despite all these fantastical and amazing storylines, I'm going to keep this grounded within humanity. I like that. I like his writing. I'm actually curious to check out more of them. If you guys know any other Ray Bradbury novels that you want me to review at some point, please let me know. But with all that said, let's move on to the final score, shall we? So for an overall score, I want to give Martian Chronicles a good 10 out of 10, just for a very unique premise of chronicling history, as well as giving a solid storytelling, and more importantly, keeping a very grounded way of telling it. All in all, I do recommend checking out Martian Chronicles if you haven't already. And just let me know what you guys thought of this review. Let me know in your comments section down below. And honestly, just thank you again for listening to this crazy man's ramblings if you're still here. Thank you all again for listening, and just have an awesome day. This is Rambling Collector, signing off.